Today we're going to talk about how the electric grid actually works, with a special focus on Oklahoma and the broader Midwest inside the Southwest power pool. First, why should you care how the grid works? Well, you've probably seen the headlines about blackouts and data centers breaking the grid, and wind farms getting shut off even when the wind is blowing, which feels like the grid equivalent of someone saying, "Sorry, I can't come into work today. My car is working perfectly fine." But if you live in Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, or around the central US, you're in one of the most interesting power grids on the planet, the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP. This is a region where wind can cover more than 80% of demand at times, but where congestion and extreme weather can still push the system to its limits. Basically like a Ferrari engine being attached to a lawnmower transmission. But today I'll walk through how the grid actually works in our region, what SPP is and what it does, why grid congestion happens and what really causes blackouts, how renewables like wind and solar can strengthen the grid, as well as what risks they bring, and finally the latest on challenges inside SPP and what's being done about them. I'll also drop some studies in the description below that you can quote and sound smart at parties, or at least the one party a year where someone asks about the grid. It's me, I'm that person asking. But let's start simple with how the grid works and what SPP actually is. When you flip a light switch, power doesn't necessarily come from the wind farm or the gas plant across the highway. It comes from a massive synchronized machine stretching across multiple states. You can think of the grid as three layers. One, power plants and resources. This includes gas plants, coal plants, wind farms and solar farms, hydro dams, even batteries. Two, high voltage transmission grids. Elements like big steel towers and lines that move bulk power across states and look like they could double as transformers in their off hours. Three, local distribution lines. Those smaller lines in your neighborhood that actually feed your home and that neighborhood squirrels love more than life itself. In the middle of the country, a nonprofit corporation called the Southwest Power Pool coordinates this whole show at the bulk level. SPP is a regional transmission organization, or RTO, regulated by FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. SPP's footprint spans parts of 14 states, including Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, most of the Texas Panhandle, and parts of Missouri, Arkansas, New Mexico, and others. It operates a wholesale electricity market where generators offer power and utilities buy it, and a reliability function, making sure supply and demand are balanced every second across high voltage lines, which is honestly a stressful job. Imagine trying to balance your bank account every second of every day. Some fast stats to ground you. Coincident peak load, or the highest total electricity demand at a specific time in SPP, has been around 56,000 megawatts in summer and over 48,000 megawatts in winter recently. There are roughly 72,000 miles of transmission lines, which is enough to circle the Earth more than twice. As of mid-2025, accredited capacity is about 65,000 megawatts, with about 48% of it being natural gas, 33% coal, 8% wind, 4.5% hydro, 3% nuclear, and a smaller but growing share of solar and batteries. So when we talk about the grid in the Midwest, we're really talking about SPP's regional multi-state machine, not just your local utility. But let's talk about congestion, because this is one of the biggest issues in our region. Imagine the transmission system like a highway network for electrons. Power plants are the on-ramps, cities and towns are the exits, and transmission lines are the lanes of the highway. Congestion happens when too much power is trying to flow through a particular line or corridor, and the system operator has to limit that flow to stay within safe equipment ratings. In SPP, congestion shows up in several ways. One, as a cost in the market, what SPP calls market congestion, basically the extra cost of rerouting power around bottlenecks. Two is curtailment, where wind or solar plants are told to ramp down because the transmission lines can't carry any more power. In SPP, curtailment is almost entirely wind-driven, as it is cheaper for grid operators to shut down and restart wind farms and other types of power generation. Recent studies show that real-time congestion fell sharply from 2022 to 2023, then increased again in 2024, remaining among the highest levels SPP has ever seen. The U.S. Department of Energy's work on potential national interest electric transmission corridors points out persistent congestion around Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and southeast Oklahoma, which directly affects our state. But why does this happen? Well, we've built a ton of wind in mostly remote areas, western Oklahoma, Kansas, and the Panhandle, faster than we've built new transmission to carry that energy east towards load centers. Load is growing, especially from things like data centers and industrial facilities, which puts more stress on existing wires. During extreme weather, power flows can get very lopsided with huge transfers across certain corridors. So congestion is basically the grid's growing pains. We have cheap energy in one place, demand in another, and not enough lanes on the highway in between. Or in other words, congestion is kind of like the grid's awkward puberty phase. Lots of potential, but just not enough infrastructure. Let's clear up a common myth. Blackouts are usually not caused by, oh no, there's too much wind or that one coal plant went down. Most large blackouts and emergency events are driven by a combination of stresses, like extreme weather, heat waves, or polar vortexes that push demand to record highs, generator outages, like plants freezing, fuel supply problems, or mechanical failures, or transmission constraints, lines being overloaded or out of service, or operational or planning gaps, just not enough reserves, poor winterization, or just outdated assumptions. Winter Storm Uri in February 2021 is a really good example of this. A federal inquiry found that across multiple regions, over 1,000 generating units had outages or derates due to cold weather. SPP itself had to shed about 2,700 megawatts of firm load for a few hours to prevent a cascading blackout. ERCOT, or the Electric Reliability Council of Texas's load shed, was far larger and lasted longer. That event wasn't about one resource. It hit gas, coal, wind, and others. The main lessons from the federal inquiry were, 1, we need better winterization of plants and gas infrastructure, and 2, we need planning for more extreme scenarios, not just typical weather. So when the lights go out in the Midwest, it's usually because a bunch of things went wrong at once, not because the grid went renewable. But let's talk about renewables and the role they have, how they help, and also what risks they bring. SPP is actually one of the global leaders in integrating wind. In 2024, wind provided, on average, about 38% of SPP's load over the year. At moments, wind reached up to 82% of load, meaning for 5-minute intervals, the vast majority of power on the system came from wind. Nationally, SPP has had one of the highest wind penetrations among all grid operators. Over the last decade, wind has made up over 80% of new capacity additions in SPP, according to DOE-funded research. Renewables help the grid in a number of ways. Fuel diversity. There's less dependence on gas and coal fuel supply, which can fail in extreme cold. They lower operating costs. Wind and solar have near zero fuel costs, which can lower wholesale power prices, and reduced emissions, which helps meet environmental policy goals and can attract investment and industry interested in clean energy. But renewables also bring challenges, variability in forecasting. Wind and solar output change with the weather. SPP works to manage this with sophisticated forecasting and by keeping flexible gas units, hydro, and now batteries ready to ramp. And congestion and curtailment. Because so much wind is built in remote areas, SPP sometimes has to curtail wind output. Curtailment of wind in SPP has increased roughly 6-fold from 2020 to 2024, tied directly to transmission bottlenecks, and resource adequacy as fossil fuel units retire. As older coal and gas units retire and load increases, including from data centers and EVs, many regions, including the central US, face rising risk of energy shortfalls, especially during extreme weather, unless new firm or flexible resources keep up. So renewables are not breaking the grid, they're transforming it, kind of like switching from a flip phone to a smartphone. Amazing potential, but you do need a good charger and maybe a screen protector. But here the risk comes from not building the transmission, storage, demand response, and flexible resources needed to integrate them. The good news is that SPP in states like Oklahoma are not asleep at the wheel. A few big moves include historic transmission build-out. In late 2024, SPP's board approved a $7.7 billion transmission expansion plan, 89 projects including 2,300 miles of new lines and nearly 500 miles of rebuilds. The plan is designed to relieve congestion, reduce wind curtailment, and improve resilience to extreme weather, with estimated benefits at least 8 times the cost. As of early 2024, there were already billions of dollars of upgrades in progress, with Oklahoma's Corporation Commission highlighting SPP's transmission portfolio as key to addressing reliability needs from load growth and the changing generation mix. Also, integrated transmission planning 2025 and beyond. SPP's 2025 ITP report focuses on projects that provide durable congestion relief and curtailment reduction across a realistic mix of resource additions, meaning they're explicitly modeling more wind, solar, and storage, and trying to build lines that stay useful across many futures. Expanding SPP westward, FERC recently approved SPP's expansion across both the eastern and western interconnections, bringing in utilities in places like Colorado and the Dakotas by 2026. This larger footprint should improve reliability and market efficiency by giving operators more diverse resources over a bigger area to balance supply and demand. Reliability and extreme weather standards. Multiple entities, including FERC and the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, or NERC, have been implementing new standards for extreme cold preparedness, including requirements for generators and grid operators in SPP to winterize equipment and plan for more severe weather scenarios. The bottom line for people in Oklahoma and the Midwest is, we're in one of the most advanced renewable heavy grids in the world. Congestion and curtailment are real problems, but they're being tackled with major transmission investments. Blackout risk is manageable, but only if planning keeps pace with load growth, resource retirements, and climate-driven extreme weather. So the next time you hear someone say the grid can't handle renewables or renewables break the grid, remember, in SPP, we're already doing it, with wind sometimes serving over 80% of demand, and with a massive build-out of transmission and new resources underway. In fact, it's the biggest upgrade in wire since America spent billions getting DSL, back when dial-up internet was making the whole country sound like R2-D2 having a panic attack. The real story isn't renewables versus reliability, it's whether we build the wires, the storage, and the planning framework fast enough to match the pace of change. If you found this helpful and want more deep dives on how energy, policy, and technology fit together here in the Midwest and Oklahoma, hit like, subscribe, drop your questions in the comments, and maybe we can do some follow-ups on topics like how markets work inside SPP or how data centers are changing the grid. But thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourself.